on satellite, on Freeview, on cable, on radio, on mobile, on the web and around the world. This is First at 9 on Other Derana 24/7.
Tonight, proposed constitution. Parliament met as the Constitutional Assembly and commenced the debate on the interim report proposals. Exercising the democracy. President Maithripala Sirisena says he will also go for an all-party conference and many other measures for making a new constitution. Swimming against the tide. 1978 Constitution never allowed provisions for a Constitutional Assembly, former Minister Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa says in a 13-page long letter. Green campaign begins. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe stresses the necessity of winning the local government polls by the UNP. And in international headlines, alleged Russian interference. Campaign manager of US President Donald Trump surrenders to the FBI over US-Russia links. Good evening to all our viewers across Sri Lanka and around the world. Thanks for making us a part of your evening. Mahesh Johnny. Our First and 9 coverage begins tonight with the latest on the proposed constitution. The first round of debates on the interim reports of the Steering Committee on Constitutional Reforms in the Constitutional Assembly of Sri Lanka took place this morning at the chambers of the Parliament. The debate will take place for 3 consecutive days from today to the 1st of November. The draft interim report of the Steering Committee was tabled in the Constitutional Assembly on the 21st of September by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe as chairman of the Steering Committee.
The Constitutional Assembly, aimed at forming a new constitution, gathered at the House chambers at 10:30 this morning. Addressing the House, the Speaker requested all participating to give their fullest cooperation to this exercise.
In this interim report, the foremost place has been given to Buddhism. It also ensures the unitary status of the country. The power over lands will not be given to the provincial councils but to a special commission. If you take the police commission, it will be appointed by the Constitutional Assembly. There will be a provincial police who will have minor powers to do work within the province. All the major powers will be with the police commission.
We have very clearly stated that Sri Lanka shall be a secular state, and I say this with responsibility. Any constitution that seeks to treat all of its citizens as its equals must be a secular constitution. We have gone on to say, but if the Buddhist people wish that a certain status be given to Buddhism, we will not stand in the way. We have very clearly said Sri Lanka must be a federation, a federal state. There is a wrong conception in this country or wrong view that has been spread. Call for federalism comes from the Tamil people because they want to separate from this country. No, sir, we have very clearly stated that the country must remain one. Is that if the country is to remain one, different peoples in this country must have a share of the governance of this country.
What has the President has said in his election manifest? He has said that any clause that needs to go in for a referendum will not be changed. That is the framework he operates, and that is the view of the SLFP as well. So if we put the best constitution towards a referendum, it will not be discussed, but factors like situm, cost of living and other things will overshadow even the best constitution. We all need to arrive at one consensus about the devolution of power. President Mahinda Rajapaksa said that it should be 13+1. And today, we as the SLFP says the very same thing. With regard to Buddhism, we clearly say that we don't need any alternatives. You can't take these alternative proposals forward without our consent, so there is nothing to be afraid of. We have clearly said that there can be interactions between 2 provinces, but we are against it being unified as one. This proposal talks about an executive prime minister. This comes from the UNP. We don't want an executive president or a prime minister or a governor. What we want is a multi-party democratic system, which religious leader in this country called to change the status of Buddhism. It came from the public hearings, and that that has made its way to this interim report. So because of the mistakes this government makes, it is fair that the public thinks that the government will say one and do something else. At many instances, we have informed in writing and verbally that we are against this interim report that vouches to change the unitary states of this country. If the powers of the president is curtailed, then we cannot stop the country breaking into various parts. We are at a crucial juncture with regard to the constitution of this country. In most instances, the views of the joint opposition and the SLFP are the same. But the members of the UNP has not in any way objected to any of the proposals of this interim report. The TNA has not opposed either. So this report is a report of the UNP and the TNA. Meanwhile, the joint opposition staged a protest against the interim report by the Steering Committee of the Constitutional Assembly at the Parliament roundabout in Bathramulla today. As a result, severe traffic congestion was seen in this area this morning.
The protest organised by the joint opposition commenced in front of the Diyatuyana Park today.
The Mahasangha and all professionals rejected this. So we demand to know who owns this constitution. If this constitution draft bill passes in the parliament, the country will surely be divided. The government is saying that this is only a draft bill. If so, why did they table it in parliament? They should take this back. If not, the joint opposition will do everything in its power to stop it from being passed in the parliament.
Meanwhile, the police took action to barricade the route to the parliament, blocking the protesters from entering into the premises. A heated argument erupted as parliamentarians who participated in the protest attempted to enter parliamentary premises to attend parliamentary sessions.
This is the first time in Sri Lanka history. Because you can understand, this is our privilege. No, that is not a police government. No. Legislation. How can stop that parliament member of parliament? No. What has settled that? Very unfair practice. That is never happened.
No, sir, it will never happen. Don't come with the protest. You, as a member, you can go, sir. When the protesters are coming, why what should you do? No, sir. All right, sir, you go. You are a member of parliament. You can go. You are allowed to go, sir. You are allowed to go, right? You go, sir. No problem. You are respecting. You don't misunderstand, right? Go. You can go, sir.
Go away. මුකුත්ලා නැහැ ඉතින් හැමදාම උද්ඝෝෂණනේ රට බෙදනවා මෛත්‍රීපාල සිරිසේන ජනාධිපතිතුමා රට අංගලක්වත් බෙදන්න එකඟ වෙන්නේ නැහැ හරි මතක තියාගන්න.
Meanwhile, parliamentarian Duleep Wijesekara, who was removed yesterday from the post of Deputy Minister of Post, Postal Services and Muslim Religious Affairs, also arrived at the location and received a warm welcome from the protesters.
I spoke with the President last January on my decision to join with the joint opposition. I requested the Speaker to allocate some time for me today, but he refused, saying that there will only be a committee stage meeting and not a parliamentary session. I believe these are the reasons why they stripped me off my post.
President Maithripala Sirisena also says that steps will be taken very soon to ensure that all erroneous views with regard to the new proposed constitution be addressed. The head of state made this remark at an event held in Colombo this afternoon.
Reconciliation, Associations and National Civil Activists Conference was held under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena today.
Anyone is free to hold discussions relating to the contents in the interim report of the new constitution, which was tabled in Parliament. This proposal will be debated in Parliament for the next 3 days. We can discuss ideas that emerge from this proposal. We can discard proposals that are unsuitable, and if there are suggestions that can be included, we will do so. Each and every parliamentarian has a responsibility to engage. The public has various views and opinions about the Constitution. In order to provide clarity, I have suggested several proposals. One of the proposals that I have suggested is to call all parties who are representatives of the Parliament and conduct an all-party conference. I hope to clarify all doubts and issues they may have and select what is best for the country expressed by the views of the majority. I also hope to call for a religious leaders summit and invite all religious leaders to one table. I must state that it is not only a politician's duty to rectify all these problems that have arisen. I will also be inviting academics and experts of this country to express their views on the Constitution. More on the Constitution, the Amarapura Mahasangha requests the President and the Prime Minister not to establish a new constitution that could be problematic, recommending instead to focus on introducing necessary amendments to the existing constitution. Issuing a statement, the Amarapura sector revealed its stance on the constitutional process today.
The statement by the Sri Lanka Amarapura sector was signed by its chief prelate along with the chairman and acting registrar of the Sangha Sabha. It says, quote, "We accept that dangers are posed to the prominence of Buddhism and unitary status of the country via proposals and alternatives mentioned in the interim report. We, however, are more concerned about the possible dangers posed by the proposal to diminish powers of the President and Parliament pertaining to the northern and eastern provinces and the proposal to merge the provinces as one unit. We stress that allocating excess powers to the north means more power for separatism. The federal system is not at all suitable for a small country such as Sri Lanka. The constitution-making process will establish a federal system that will separate the country into units and consequently discard the unitary status that had always been there since inception. We also mentioned that it will be useful for long-term reconciliation if we provide all citizens with knowledge of both Sinhala and Tamil languages. It is our belief that it will be more timely if the 13th Amendment is abolished for clear economic development and reconciliation rather than the introduction of a new constitution that is not required currently and has failed to obtain people's mandate. We request the President and Prime Minister not to establish a new constitution which could be problematic and instead focus on introducing necessary amendments into the existing constitution." Unquote.
Former Minister of Justice, parliamentarian Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa alleges that the Constitutional Assembly has not only been unconstitutional but also powerless from its very inception. He met the allegations issuing a special statement to media today.
In his 13-page statement, former Minister Vijayadasa Rajapaksa says that the 1978 Constitution gives no powers to the Parliament to form a constitution-making assembly. He pointed out that if the government finds it difficult to make a new constitution, it should appoint a select committee according to standing orders and obtain recommendations thereby. He adds that the present Constitutional Assembly and Steering Committee are powerless as well as void. Accordingly, he says the interim report of the Steering Committee presented last month is effectively void and powerless. He also alleges that the Public Representations Committee is devoid of legal validity. He alleges that instead of the steering committee, it was foreign advisors and non-governmental organizations that were most involved in the preparation of the interim report. The former minister alleged that a number of parliamentarians who have long held the stance that Sri Lanka should be a federal state and not a unitary state were also involved. The former Justice Minister questioned the necessity of the Parliament's existence if parliamentarians' legislative powers are handed over to such groups and an assembly rejected by the law.
Also in local news, former Defence Secretary Gotabaya Rajapaksa requests the government to refrain from preparing a constitution that caters to the requirements of individuals promoting separatism. He made this comment participating in a seminar organised by the Elia organisation in Kandy today. At the last presidential election, Mahinda Rajapaksa won the majority of votes in Sinhala majority areas. But Maithripala Sirisena, who won majority of votes in the areas where the minorities such as Tamils and Muslims live. So how can this constitution be limited just to the needs of a majority? This constitution is being created as per needs of separatist Tamil politicians. These parliamentarians only speak about the devolution of power. They never speak about problems of the general public. We request the government to stop this process. Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa denounces all attempts of advocacy for the removal of the constitutional provision which accords the foremost place for Buddhism. The former president was addressing the Second International Buddhist Festival for Social and Cultural Relationships held in India today.
In recent times in Sri Lanka, certain parties have advocated the removal of the constitutional provision which accords the foremost place to Buddhism. But I must tell you that we are against it. We are completely opposed to the removal of illusion of this constitutional provision because that would destroy the very fabric of our society. It's beautiful. Each Sri Lankan individual knows deep down that we can live together as a nation. In fact, the majority of the Tamil people in Sri Lanka permanently live outside the north and east among the Sinhala people. It is the tolerance and the peaceful nature of Buddhism that gives our nation this strength. The head of the Roman Catholic Church in Sri Lanka, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, has gone on record opposing any move to deprive Buddhism of the foremost place accorded by the Constitution and turn Sri Lanka into a secular state. Despite all attempts made by certain politically motivated parties to destroy this harmony, it has held. This is the legacy of Buddhism in Sri Lanka.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Derana 24/7.
Welcome back, everyone. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe says the UNP must win the upcoming local government elections in order to strengthen the present government. He made the remark attending a UNP Action Committee meeting held in Colombo.
UNP Action Committee meeting of Colombo North was held under the patronage of Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. The event was also attended by Minister of Health Dr. Rajitha Senaratne.
We won't stop this journey. We will build the government again in 2020. We took this government not to give it back in 5 years. We will hold power for another 10 years and then we'll decide on our next step. By then, this country will already be developed. Because of the delay in elections, some say that the government is afraid to hold elections. No, we are not. Some say we couldn't give job opportunities as we promised. That's right, we couldn't. First, we must fix the economy. If the economy collapses, we all are doomed. There are some issues that we need to solve. We have to win this election in order to do that.
Government's final decision on Satnam was criticised by various factions, citing that the decision continues to be a problem than a solution. Various factions expressed their opposition over government's proposal to abolish Satnam today.
It is an illusion. If we assume that a new institution with no experience in medical education will meet given standards within 2 to 3 months.
Meanwhile, issuing a statement today, the JVP said that the government is trying to deceive the entire nation through the latest decision.
This is not yet the final decision. Many signs of progress are lacking in this decision. Through this decision, the President clearly states that the minimum standards will be gazetted. The country has clearly won through this decision.
Let's move on to business news now. Tax expert N.R. Gajendran points out that the government should focus on tax policy framework that enables ease of doing business through the upcoming budget in order to instill a stable investment climate within the country. Speaking to First at 9 on his expectations through the 2018 appropriation bill, Gajendran also raised concerns over irreversible interest on tax in dispute, adding that the country should retain what is good in the existing tax laws.
People will prefer to come and stay in this country. So once you are preferred to stay in this country, then you will engage with the country for economic activity. So we have to create that. Sri Lanka is no longer cheaper with labour. Our interest cost is gone up. Most of the businesses are going through difficulties now because of the interest cost. Our businesses are heavily undercapitalized. That is, we do business not with our own money, but with borrowed money. And if the interest rates are 12, 13, 14%, what is the business you can have which gives you a return to some on that minimum of 20% if you want to break even?
The tax consultant also called for tax laws to be revisited in order to support the creation of a conducive investment environment.
If there's a tax in dispute, now we call it a penalty on a dispute, and the discretionary element is given for the Commissioner General to waive or reduce the penalty. Under the proposed one, they are giving interest at 1.5% a month, so it can be about 20% a year. So if there is a substantial tax in dispute based on substantial ground or on procedural grounds, and if this interest is going to be mounting, if it is 4 years, it will reach 100%, almost 80 to 100%. It can be prohibitive and destructive for businesses. If we are trying to attract foreign investors here, bring in new investment, these are irritations that will have big destructive. Now, certain for foreign countries, they have this type of irreversible interest on tax in dispute, but there the rates of interest are very low, 0.5%, 1%. So even if it is 4 years, it's only 4%, 5%. Here, if it is 4 years, it will be 100%. So it can be destructive. You can have philosophical concepts here, the money is with you and all those things. But bottom line is you must make ease of doing business and business friendly. So what is good in the existing law should not be just thrown away. The baby should not be thrown away with the bathtub.
Sri Lankan Airlines expanded its route network with the launch of daily non-stop services to Melbourne last night. With the resumption of direct flights between Australia and Sri Lanka, what will be the impact on the country's economy, and will it bring additional revenue to keep afloat the debt-ridden national carrier? Speaking exclusively to First at 9 from Tullamarine Airport in Melbourne, Australia, Sri Lankan High Commissioner to Australia, Somasundaram Skandaraja, said that it will benefit tourism and trade, opening up new avenues to strengthen imports and exports between the two countries.
The A330, marking the launch of daily direct flights to Melbourne, Australia, took off from the Bandaranaike International Airport at 11:50 last night.
Australia is now the second fastest growing cohort of tourists coming to Sri Lanka, and I've seen some year-on-year figures, and even though the rate of growth has slowed a little bit in Sri Lanka this year, the Australian market for Sri Lanka is still going very strong, and I expect with these direct flights that will continue. We will see more business connectivity, which will be good for both of our countries too.
State Minister of Public Enterprise Development Lakshman Yapabe Wardana responded to journalists on the future of the national carrier.
We can continue operating the airline. This is our national identity, and I do not believe privatization is the solution. We can change the management structure, and we are working towards strengthening the airline.
The inaugural flights from Colombo touched down at the Tullamarine Airport in Melbourne at 10 a.m. Sri Lankan time. Our financial analyst based in Melbourne, Imran Furkan, spoke to the Sri Lankan High Commission in Australia, Somasundaram Skandakumar, shortly after US 604 landed in Melbourne.
Perishable goods which normally would not have come because of the transit, and then reciprocally out from here, largely the business delegations and also tourism. We just have to enhance our marketing, and I think the Tourist Promotion Board and the Development Authority are looking at it very seriously. So I feel that this is going to have a major impact on our relationship in 2018.
With regards to the question about financial viability of the flight, I think we need to separate the financial viability of a particular route from that of the overall airline. The Sri Lankan is using an A330 plane on this route, which is slightly cheaper in terms of leasing. And also they are doing a direct flight, which no other airline is doing between Colombo and Australia. There is massive interest in terms of the South Indian market, and also Australian tourists who are looking to go to Maldives and India via Colombo.
The Colombo Stock Exchange experienced high volatility at the beginning of trade in the new week today and closed mixed, with ASPI losing 6 points and the S&P closing 7 points up. However, both turnover and volume improved significantly, aided by high foreign participation, which in turn led to a net foreign inflow to the market. Market turnover was 2.5 billion rupees, while foreign buying amounted to 136 million rupees. Here is RM Sivanandan from the Colombo Stock Exchange with more details.
Top 5 gainers of the day were PC Palma, Amaya Leisure, Blue Diamonds, Seagrave Village and Ceylon Beverage. While the top 5 losers were Adam Investments, Central Investments and Finance, Swarnamal Financial Services, Amana Life Insurance and Tessegro.
Watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Derana 24/7.
Let's move on to international news now. The former campaign manager for U.S. President Donald Trump, Paul Manafort, today surrendered to the Washington's Federal Bureau of Investigation in connection with the inquiry of alleged Russian interferences in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. The investigation on the matter is headed by Justice Department Special Counsel Robert Mueller.
According to international media, Paul Manafort's former business associate Rick Gates was also ordered to surrender to authorities, resulting Manafort and Gates to be the first individuals to face charges in the investigation run by Special Counsel Robert Mueller. However, in the investigation of alleged collusion, money laundering and tax evasion, the nature of charges that will be faced by Manafort and Gates are still unclear.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.
Well, Pakistan marked the return of Sri Lanka to Lahore with a 3-0 2020 series whitewash yesterday, re-establishing Pakistan's reputation for hosting international cricket. Pakistan won the third and final 20-over match by 30 runs at Gaddafi Stadium in Lahore.
Showcasing fantastic performances, Pakistan was able to put up a competitive score of 180 for the loss of 3 wickets in their innings. Chasing 181, Sri Lanka's opening partnership was limited to just 10 runs as Dilshan Munawira was bowled out by Mohammad Amir. Sri Lanka's top 5 was toppled by Pakistan bowlers within just 96 runs. Dasun Shanaka was the only batsman to score a half-century in the Sri Lankan innings. He, however, was soon caught by Imad Wasim while facing Fahim Ashraf's bowling. Pacer Mohammad Amir clinched 4 wickets for 13 runs, destroying Sri Lankan bottom order. Sri Lanka could only score 144 for the loss of 9 wickets, shattering hopes of all Sri Lankan cricketing fans. Shoaib Malik was named man of the match. Juan Martín del Potro defeated home favourite Roger Federer in consecutive Basel finals in 2012 and 2013, and the starting of this year's match looked like yet another defeat for Federer as Del Potro claimed the first set. Federer, however, stormed back to win the title, defeating Del Potro 6-7, 6-4, 6-3. Joe Wilfried Tsonga could not live up to expectations as he was defeated by Luca Pouille 6-1, 6-4 in straight sets in the Vienna Open last night. With the win, Pouille claims his 3rd title of the season.
You are watching Sri Lanka's trusted news brand, Derana 24/7.
Well, Sadhini Upeka is at the Derana Weather Centre with your forecast for tomorrow.
Good evening and welcome to the Weather Centre. Now, cooler temperatures can be expected across the island tomorrow, with the east coast experiencing a maximum of 28 degrees Celsius. Temperatures in the low 20s will continue in the central hills. Now, a low pressure zone will develop across the island during the course of the day, spelling heavy rainfall in several parts of the country. That's it from the Weather Centre tonight. Up next is your City by City forecast.
And that is a part of your world tonight right here on Other Derana 24/7. Our First at 9 coverage will return tomorrow at the same time. Be sure to join us then. And before we wrap things up for tonight, we'd like to take you back in time to give you a peek at the tea industry during the British colonial era. Tonight we follow the journey of Ceylon tea all the way from plantations to ships that traveled the world. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a good night.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.